So this is basically exactly the type of hand you want. We have the turn 1 Vial, then we have the turn 2 Thalia, and then presumably we'll hit a third land and we can Queller. And even if we don't, we have 2 lands so we can Path to Exile, and then the Vial is going to take up to 3 and we can Queller. We even have a backup Thalia in case the first one dies, which often does. So we can actually play the Vial, then turn 2 play the Thalia, and if they deal with it, then the Vial ticks up to 2, and we just Vial in the Thalia. And if we have a land, we could actually play Queller and Vial in Thalia. So we're just in pretty good shape, and then basically every card in our deck that we can draw, we're in a position to play out at that point. So pretty perfect of a draw, but there's a lot of hands in Modern that can beat it, potentially. So it looks like we're up against Storm. Not a whole lot of decisions here since we bricked on our land. Just play the other Vial. We could, there's an argument to holding up Path to Exile in case they play their creature and then try to go off. We can respond to a ritual by pathing it. But I figure the second Vial is pretty relevant. I think it's pretty unlikely that they're going to do that since we have a Thalia on the board and we had a Vial. So if they killed our Thalia, we could just Vial into play another one. So it's like I felt pretty confident they weren't going to go off on us that turn. So I figured just playing the Vial was pretty safe. So now we can kill their creature. It accelerates their mana a little bit though, but it's still going to be difficult for them to go off in the face of Thalia. And even if they do, we have the Queller and the Vial on 3. So we can counter a key card at the right time. And they can't even remand it back because we're Vialing in the Queller. So here they gift, and we just, since we have a backup Queller, we're just going to go ahead and use that on that one. So it looks like they're digging for an answer to the Queller. See here, this was a decision I wasn't really sure about. Like, why are they casting the Ritual in that spot? It didn't really make sense to me. I figured they were going to cast Past in Flames, but like, if they just, let's say, have Empty the Warrens or something, and there's like Ritual, Ritual, Empty, or whatever, and I guess we could counter the second Ritual, but then if it's like like that, I thought that was a difficult one, and I'm not really sure exactly if it's right to counter that Ritual there, because that might have been the opportunity where they were just emptying their hand. Like, we can't let them resolve the second Ritual, because that means even if it's Past in Flames, then it could be Empty the Warrens. Like, if it's Past in Flames as their last card, then great, we want to counter that, and then that's just the end of their turn, basically. But then we also don't want Past in Flames underneath a Queller, because then they just draw a removal spell for the Queller and kill it, and then they can cast it for free and flashback all their stuff, and that could be pretty bad for us. So I just figured countering it there seemed fine. Like, they have 3 cards left in hand, so so yeah, here we have them basically on dead in a couple turns. Sack the Canopy, try to draw something, because we don't have a lot going on in hand, just what's on board. So we path their creature. Looks like they're out of basics pretty much. And they drew Unsubstantiate. That was the card. So now that doesn't exactly work out the way they're hoping for, I don't think. I don't know that they have another better option here, but basically you unsubstantiate, bounce the Queller, Queller ability goes on the stack. You have to recast your spell, but then the Queller's back in my hand, so I just activate the Vial to counter it again. So they didn't really accomplish a whole lot with that, but this is what they were setting up. They just wanted to get the unsubstantiate out of their hand so that they can basically increase the storm count for the grape shot. So now they're killing our Thalia and our Queller, but we have a backup Thalia in hand, so we wait for that to resolve, and then just in case, we'll Thalia. Actually, wait, what just happened here? Oh, yeah, so then we put the Thalia in, we attack them, the Arbiter goes core to the land, and draw Mirran Crusader, okay. We don't have a good attack on the ground because they just block Thalia and go to 1. All right, so they remand, and here's where I'm regretting taking the Vial up to 3. So I should have left it on 2, realizing that they already have Unsubstantiate in their graveyard. They usually have a second bounce spell because they can gift for 2 bounce spells. And so the other bounce spell was Repeal. Some play Echoing Truth, but it's the same thing basically. So we should have played around that by keeping Vial on 2, so if they bounce Thalia, we can replay it. We didn't, so now they have an opportunity to attempt to go off. So they target us with a bunch of grape shots. Not looking good for the home team. And they still need something else. Actually, I think they can just flash back the Past in Flames and Grape Shot again. Do they have the mana for that? Yeah, they have 8 mana. Yeah, so that's... I think that the key mistake was just ticking up the Vial to 3, so don't do that when you're in this spot. So this game's over. Now, game 2. I think we win that game if we don't mess that up. So this hand is, again, pretty good. Has the Vial, and you keep most turn 1 Vial hands, especially when it has a Thalia or an Arbiter. The Forged Tender right on time, right after the Vial goes up to 2. So they attempt to Grape Shot. We sack the Spirit to prevent, to save our Thalia. Then we play the Arbiter. And now we have a whole bunch of stuff going on. Forged Tender protects the Thalia. That's what you want to do in this matchup because that's so important. If they anger us, that's not too bad because we have the Queller. Now here we surgical them. Now, interestingly enough, they conceded. I think it was a little premature. So one of the nombos that comes up sometimes, and this happens to be one of those scenarios where it does come up, is that if you have an Arbiter on the battlefield and you don't have the mana to pay for Arbiter, uh, Arbiter actually stops surgical extraction from searching the opponent's library, because I would have to pay 2 in order to search my opponent's library, which that doesn't come up very often, but it did this time. So since I have 2 Arbiters, I'd have to pay 4, and I don't have 4 mana. So I was basically just exiling a card from their graveyard, but they conceded anyway. I mean, I have the Queller in hand and the Vial on 3, and I'm about to tack them down to 6. So I don't know if there's really anything that they can do on their next turn to save them, but I think they conceded without realizing that's a thing. So just wanted to point that out. Now let's see if we can win 3-0. So we keep this hand because it has Rest in Peace. And Rest in Peace is one of our really good cards in this matchup. So Serum Visions. We don't want the... kind of sped through that. One of them was Path to Exile. So I think we... look, I think we top-topped. Yeah, I top-topped. So I wanted to draw the Path to Exile first, and then I would draw the other thing. So I rest in peace, and it resolves, which is a little surprising to me. I was expecting it to get remanded, but it resolved, which means something else is going on. They didn't cast anything either. So barrel. So I guess it was Queller and Path. So we kept Path first, and then Queller. So we Path to exile the barrel, and then we cast Thalia. Thalia's a really important card right now. So they bolt, can't protect it. Then we play Draft. So I mean, we could protect it with like a Queller, but I don't really want to play that game. I figure with Rest in Peace on the board, and they're down to 3 cards in hand, it's going to be really difficult for them to go off at this point. It would have been really difficult through a Thalia, but now that they use their bolt to kill the Thalia, we could try to fight over it with Queller and then try to resolve the Selfless Spirit, and then that would be another route to victory. But I figured this was just as good. We just let that happen. We play the Geist here, and it's basically impossible for them to go off from this position, since they'd have to bounce the Rest in Peace and then fill up their whole graveyard from 0 and go off in one turn, which is possible, but extremely unlikely. So if we just cast the Geist of Saint Traft here, then next turn we can start doing things like just leave up Queller basically for the rest of the game, which the rest of the game would only be like 3 hits. Or we could cast like, let's say we draw a land, then we could Serum Visions, try to find another land, so then we can go land Selfless Spirit with Queller up, and then that increases the clock another turn. So there's basically, I felt like either plan was probably pretty good, but yeah, so we did find the lands as well. So now we can play the Spirit, and this is basically the hard lock. Because now we can protect the Queller with the Spirits, and the Queller to counter their spell. Now they wipe away, which interestingly enough is a card we can't counter. That's the other bounce spell they have, because it's split second. So it comes back to our hand, but now there's no way they're going to go off through a spell Queller from this spot. So they just conceded. So that was Blue-Red Storm, which I think is a pretty decent matchup for us, considering we have all the Thalias, and then it's especially, like, it's better for the blue-white version than it is the other versions of Death and Taxes and Hate Bears, because Queller really is a really important card in this matchup as well.